Hello everyone and welcome to the tutorial on how to create custom mods, custom buildings for SkidCities. If you missed the first tutorial, I encourage you to check it out. It's a simpler, basic one where I show you how to add new 3D models to existing buildings. But in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add completely new building types, add them to the menu of the game, add new capabilities like effects and stuff like that. You can pretty much create anything, which is very exciting. So, first step is opening up the SkidCities modding tool. It's a Unity project. If you didn't have Unity on your computer yet, if you don't have Unity on your computer yet, I suggest that you install it. I'm using 2023.3.2 LTS. And you need to have support for Linux, Mac, and Windows, because we're gonna build support for all of those. And then download the Unity project. The link is in the documentation and in the description. And then you open it up. Once you open it up, you will see, let's take a look at this. You will see that you are in this scene that it's called New Building. And if you select this is my prefab, and that has everything that I need to start building my mod. Now, in this example, I'm going to create a mod with one additional building, but I'm also going to show you how to pack multiple buildings in the same mod. So how to do this? So these are basically the things that you need to fill. Once those are filled in, your mod is ready. So it's easier said than done. Well, it's not that hard. Let's take a look. So the first thing is the ID. Now, the ID is the unique identifier for your building. You can either use an existing ID that is already used in the game, and if you do so, your mod will override an existing building. So, for example, you can say you override the bounty hunter crib with a new model, with new effects, with a new icon and stuff like that. Here I would just need to put the ID of the bounty hunter crib. Where do I find the ID? Well, if you go into the official documentation, also linked in the description, and you go to the ID section here or here, you will find a spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet that I'm using. I'm Lapsus, I'm the developer of the game, and you will find all the IDs in this column. And so I'm gonna scroll down to security and the bounty hunter one. So this would be the ID that I would use if I wanted to create a mod that overrides this type of building, bounty hunter one. On the other end, if I wanted to create a completely new building, I just have to pick an ID that is not used yet by anyone. And if I do that, I will simply add a new building. So that's what I want to do for this demo, for this tutorial. And also I'm going to put the asset on the workshop. And what I want to do is I want to create a purge building, something that my citizen can go and once a year and purge. So I'm going to call it purge 1. Now, only model, this is the thing that you want to use when you want your mod to be just a 3D model replacement. But this is not the case, so I'm not going to type that. I'm going to leave it like this, not selected. Same thing for dev model variation. This is what you want to use when your mod is adding a new model to, say, factories or residentials, but that's not what I want to do. Then menu spot, this is where it gets interesting. So those are all of the menus that are available in the building menu to the user. So road, transportation, vertical, cyberspace, residential, factories, etc. And so here you can pick where your building is going to show up in the game. Let me fire up the game to show you what I mean real quick. Okay, so now I have the game open. See, the building menu is divided in 3, and this is the last level, road. Then I have transportation, vertical, cyberspace. And if you take a look here, this is the stuff that you will find here, vertical, cyberspace, residential. And so you can decide where you want your new building to show up. Since my building is a purge building, I'm gonna put it in public purse and entertainment. That's where I feel like it should be. So if I go back to Unity and I open this, I'm gonna find sub perks, and this is for entertainment. Like that. Okay, so we're done with that. Let me quit the game real quick. All right. So sub-percent is done. Building model is the 3D Blender model. I'm gonna go back to, actually let's do that now. So you can create this with any 3D tool like Maya or whatever. I'm using Blender because it's free. If you don't know how to use Blender, I highly suggest that you check out other tutorials that are done by people that are way better than me at Blender. But there's a lot of content out there. It's an amazing tool. I'm just gonna talk about a couple of things that are important for SkidCities models. So the first thing that you want to define actually when you're making a building is how big should the building be. Usually buildings are between 2 and 4 tiles big. They can also be 1 tile. In Blender, when you add a new mesh, say a new plane, in Blender this is scale 1. You can see it here. Now this scale 1 is equals to 2 tiles in SkidCities. So in this case, if I want my building to be 2 tiles wide, this would be correct. But actually, I want my building to be 4 tiles wide. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go down there where it says sides. I'm going to go put in 4. Okay. And now here, back in Blender, I want this to be 2 because, you know, Blender is half the size of the in-game stuff. Okay, so now my Blender model is matching my size, the size that I'm setting up here. And now I'm gonna create my model. Okay, now I'm kind of satisfied with my model. I'm gonna save it in Blender format just so I have it. I'm gonna call it purge1. Now I need to export it to Unity. Now, if you're using Blender, Blender has some cool features that maybe you've seen me used, like mirroring, but Unity doesn't really like it. So before exporting it, I want to apply the mirroring. Now this is not mirrored anymore, it's one big mesh. Now I'm gonna select everything, plus U, and select Smart UV project. That's gonna make sure that my textures look good. And now I'm gonna assign the materials. The smallest number of materials that you use, the best. If you're planning to use a lot of materials, there's a way to bake them into one material. Reach me out on Discord, I'll show you how to do it. It's a little bit too advanced for this tutorial and it may not be needed, so I'm not gonna show it now. I'm just gonna add 2 materials here. I'm gonna call it purge main, purge1 main. And you can call this what you want, as long as like every object has 1 material. Has at least 1 material attached to it. Here we go. So now I'm ready to export. I'm gonna go File, Export, FBX. In my experience, this is a very good format to export from Blender to Unity. So I suggest you use this. Now, where to export? You should try to export into the folder where you installed the SkidCities modding tool. the Unity project that I was mentioning before. And then you go in Assets, Your Mod. You can actually place it anywhere here, but just to keep things tidy, I suggest you put it in Your Mod. You click Export FBX. Now, if everything went alright, when you go back here, you will find here your model. You can drag and drop into the scene, boom, so you can take a look at it. You see, my model is still not perfect for Unity. This is because I forgot one important step. I'm gonna select this, press Tab to go to Edit mode, and then press A to select everything, and then go on Mesh, Normals, Recalculate Outside. And then I'm gonna press U again, Smart UV Project again. Okay. So what happened is that the normals weren't what Unity was expecting. Now I'm gonna have to export again. So File, Export, FBX, again, and I'm gonna overwrite the same file. So now if I go back to Unity, boom, now it's loaded. This is the better one. So you see this model does not have any texture. So I'm gonna select the model here in New Mod, and here in Materials I'm gonna click on Extract Materials, select your mod. Now those are the two materials I created, and if you change the color, you're gonna see changing there. What you need to do right now is create textures. I will use Substance Painter to create those textures because that's what I use. There's a lot of other tools out there that you can use to create textures. If you get stuck on this stage, or you don't know what to do or what tools to use, or you have suggestions on what I should suggest to the modder community, since Substance Painter is a paid tool, let me know in the comments below, and I will do another video about texturing. So again, for this tutorial, I'm gonna quickly use Substance Painter, and then I'm gonna export the textures in this file as images. Okay, so now I have created my textures. They're texture files, they are here. Now I'm gonna assign them to my materials. So I'm gonna do concrete first, my albedo, my metallic map, my normal map, my occlusion map, my albedo. Here I also created some emission maps, which are cool because they allow you to, you know, have your building be light up in the dark. So like during the night and stuff like that, it looks very cool. Normal and occlusion, then I'm gonna save so that it fixes it. Here we go. So now my model is ready. I'm gonna go back to new building. I'm gonna drag and drop the model into building model. Boom. So this is done. Let's move on. Nearby sound, this is optional. If you want the building to emit a sound when the player zooms in, you can attach the sound here. I'm not gonna do this for this demo, but yeah, you pretty much drag and drop a sound in this folder here, and then once it's here, you drag and drop it there. Icon. Okay, so there is a more interesting point. So basically, when you're playing SkidCities, and every building has an icon associated to it. Let me open the game real quick and show you what I mean. Alright, so you see, for example, the roads, they have this road icon here, and it's also used in this button here. Say if I switch to Wasteland, I will now see near my mouse this apple before I waste this, I will see the trash bin, etc. So every building has its own icon, and if you want to create a new building, you will need your own icon. So how do we do this? So I provide you, if you want to check it out, in the documentation, if you go at the icon section, you will see that there's a link, a file linked, a Figma file. So I'm also going to link it in the description. Figma is a 2D UI tool. It's very handy. And here I created this small guide. You will need to go in here and create a copy of this file. So you will click, you see here there's the title of the file, you will click on top here and then duplicate. If you don't have a Figma account, you can create a new one, it's free. So you will click on duplicate, file is duplicated, click on open, and now this copy, you will have edit access to it, so you'll be able to edit it. But you're using it as a starting point, so that's much easier. Let's take a look. So this file allows you to create the 4 images that you need. So if you go back here and click on new building, you will see you will need icon, building button active, building button locked. And are those 3 icons here, 3 images here. Active, locked, building button, and icon. Now the cool thing is those things are connected, so as long as you update this icon here, everything else will update automatically. So if you don't know how to use Figma, you can check it out, but it's kind of easy, so I'm gonna try to show you how to do this. So for an icon, you can either design it yourself. If you want to design it yourself, you just double click here. Now you see I'm here on the level of the icon itself, and now you can start, modifying. You double click again, and now you can, change the shape here if you want, or you can just, delete it. So like you select everything, you delete everything, or you click here and now I press delete. Boom, it's done. And now I can add, say, a new rectangle here and start shaping it. In this case, I have a purge icon to do. So the only thing I'm gonna say is like be mindful of the size of the icon. So this is the rectangle that I'm keeping an eye on. Another option is if you don't feel like designing the icon yourself, you can go to an icon website like Flat Icon. So in this case, I would go there and I would type like anger, something like that, because that's what purge is, making you free. So I like this, so I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna click on SVG, free download. It's gonna get my SVG down. Boom, download it. I'll go back to Figma and drag and drop this inside my project here. Oh, it needs to be resized. All right, I'm gonna delete this other thing. It's way faster if you use a free-to-use icon. There's so many out there. So I want this to be bigger. So I want this to be, here I can manipulate the size. I'm gonna say 26 by 26. And now I can center it. So I'll click here to center it horizontally, here to center it vertically. Then I want to change the color. You see here I can change the color. I'm gonna make it, this needs to be white. And if I want bonus points, I can also add a shadow. A white shadow gives this feeling that there's an old kind of shiny thing like this. Cool. So if you're wondering how I'm zooming in and out, I'm just pressing Control and then scrolling with my mouse wheel. All right, so now if you zoom back, you will see that the icon updated here, but it's kind of weirdly placed. And the reason is that I need to double click here, select my very angry emoji, and then you see that here is saying left and top. This means that if the icon is bigger or smaller, this drawing inside is not going to change its size. It's just going to be anchored on the left on top. I don't want that. So I'm going to click here and change it to scale. And then I'm going to click here and change it to scale again. So now if I zoom back, you will see that this looks okay. This is now centered and scaled up. Nice. So my icons are now ready. Let me show you to export it. So here, I'm going to close this up so that I select the higher level ones. Then I'm going to click on the first one, press Shift, click on the last one. Now I selected all the stuff that I want to export. Now I'm going to go here, scroll down on the right. It's going to say export 2x double size. That's what I want to do in PNG. I'm going to export it. Boom. So now it's downloaded on my computer on a zip file. So I'm going to open the zip file, extract it on my computer. This is going to end up in my download folder here. Just on my download folder, it's fine. So now I go back in my downloads folder. Where are those files? All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, and starting icons. Those are the things that I want. So I'm going to select those, copy them, because I want to move them to the directory of Unity. Or you can also just drag and drop them. So let's just drag and drop them here. Boom. Okay, so now they're here. Let's try to assign them. I'm going to try to drag and drop it there. It's not going to work, but I want to show you. And this is not working. And the reason is that this image is not a sprite for Unity. So you select the image, you go into texture type, and you switch it from default to sprite. Then you click apply. You repeat the same thing for the other icons. You can also select multiple icons by pressing Ctrl and then clicking. And then again, texture type, sprite, apply. Boom. So now all of those are sprites. You will see because they have this little arrow next to them. That's good. That means they are sprites. So now if I go back to new building, okay, icon, this is the icon. Building button is the active one, so it's this one. And building button active is this one. And locked is the last one. Here we go. So now I'm done with the icons. Nice. Okay, so now friendly name. This and all of the fields that I'm talking about, by the way, they're all detailed in the documentation. So if there's something you missed, just go in the documentation. It will explain that there too. Anyway, this is my friendly name. So here I can say this is the name that is displayed to the players. So I can say the purge. And now this is the description that the players will see in the tooltips and when they're right-clicking on it. Here, wealthy citizens can purge once a year. Bring blades. Sounds badass. Okay, so now my first part is finished. We're just need to go through building type definition, artifacts, and symbol names. So building type definition name is going to have to be the same as ID. This is very important. Just put the same as ID. That's it. Cost, this is how much the player will pay. I'm going to put 400 because my building is expensive. And maintenance cost is how much the player will pay every month to keep this building up. So I'm going to put 20. It's actually 50. Expansion coefficient, just leave this at 1. Starting dev level, just leave this at 1. This is the level of the building. All of the buildings have either 0 or 1. They will downgrade to 0 if, say, they don't have a road connection. So 1 is fine. Locked, you have to mark this up if you want your building to be unlockable if users reach a certain objective. Just leave it unchecked. Mean level, this you want to change this if you want your building to be at least built on a certain level. So for example, if you put it 0, your building will need to be built on ground level or above. And max level works the other way around. So if you don't want your building to be built, say, on levels bigger than level 2, you put 2 on max level, and the player will be told to build the building just on level 2 or below. If you leave them at 100,000 or minus 100,000, that's basically everything, right? So it will have no effect. Since my building in this case is not an underground building, it's not a sky building or anything, I'll just leave it like that. Is rectangular, please just leave it checked. Size, we already talked about this. This is the size of your building. Extends to upper level or to bottom level. Those are special cases where your building is built on a level, but it also has a part of the building on another level. So for example, vertical roads are like this, right? You build them on a level, but they have another chunk of it popping up on the upper level or bottom level. If you're planning on building such buildings, please let me know, because I need to add some code in the game for this to work. It takes me 5 minutes, but I need to do it. Affected range. Now this is interesting. This is the range of effect of your building. So in tiles. And in this case, I want mine to be 6. And so my building will have an outside effect of 6. What are the effects? You will say, well, let's take a look. Coming soon, just leave it like this. If you mark it, it will say that the building is not available yet in early access, which is not what you want usually. Okay, area effects. This is an array, meaning that you can add as many as you want of those. Those are the effects in your city. If they are defined in this way, you have the target metric name. This is a ID that identifies the metric that you're gonna affect. So for example, say street crime. If you want a list of all the different target metric names, check out the documentation. Again, there's a spreadsheet, and it will have all the IDs and all the different names that you may want. I want this building to be to have a good impact on the desirability of rich residential. So this is, let me write this correctly. This is the ID, I know. Initial coefficient, this can be a positive number, and this will make the metric bigger, or it can be a negative number, and this will make the metric smaller. So for example, if you want this to reduce street crime, you're gonna put like street crime and then -10, and this is gonna reduce street crime. In this case, I want this to increase how much rich residentials go around this by 5, so I'm gonna put 5. Subsequent passes, just ignore this. Expand to another level. This, by default, it's 0. This means that the effect, it's going to be at the same level of the building where it's built. For example, like sewers also have an effect on level 1, which means they affect buildings on the upper level compared to where they are built. This is very interesting. You should definitely use it. Just keep in mind that if now I put 1, this will have no effect on the current level. So you may want to add multiple area of effects, 1 for each level. So I'm going to leave it at 0, but I'm going to also add another one with 1. Min dev level and max dev level, those you can ignore them because those are not important in this case. Those are filters. So you could say, like, if the building is of level, has to be level 2 at minimum, but the only buildings who can reach more than level 1 are residentials and factories, so you're not really looking forward to this. Affects only building type is a filter. So if you want, say, this effect to reach only roads, then you would write road here. And this metric would be applied to road only. This can be interesting if you want a particular mechanic, which I don't in this case. So I'm gonna add another area of effects because I think that also people on the upper level will be excited about this. So I click the plus here, added a new one. I'm gonna leave everything as it is, but I'm gonna click on expand to another level and I'm gonna put 1. That's great. And then I want another thing. I want this to increase the cyberpunk level of the rich residentials around it. So I'm gonna click again on add another list. Now this is gonna be cyberpunk. Initial coefficient is 3, which is actually pretty high. And then affects only building type is going to be residential rich. This will affect only wealthy residentials around it, and not other types of buildings. You can use the same thing also for utopia. So I could add, for example, and I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to write utopia here. And this is going to decrease the utopia because it's a pretty dystopic building, right? So I'm going to put -5. And this is going to be -5 for residential rich, but also I'm going to add another one, -5 for residential poor. Because guess what? If you're living next to the purge and you're not rich, yeah, that's pretty dystopic. Oh, I need to change this because I want this to be 0 in this case, same level. Okay, so now I've added the effects of my building. I just have one last thing and then I'm done. Single names. So I don't know if you noticed, but when the player right clicks on a building, it says different building names. Let me fire up the game and show you what I mean. Okay, so here I'm in the game. If I right click on any building, you see that there's this name here on top. Hive, Iron Slums, Morcar Corp. So you will need to define different names for your building in this way as well. And that's how you do it. So those are the different names. So I'm gonna call this like Purge Side A, Purge Side B, Federal Purge Building. I'm gonna call it the monthly purge. You can add as many as you want names here, and they will be randomly displayed when the user right clicks on it. So it's very cool. Alright, so I am done here. I completed all of the different things of my buildings. The only thing that I'm missing is I'm gonna save this, file save, just to be sure. The only thing that I'm missing, and it's very, very important, is here on the top right, I'm gonna click on overrides and apply all. This is a fundamental step. If you don't do it, your mod will not work. Click here on overrides, apply all. This is gonna apply all of my changes into the new building object here. This is what you wanna do. Okay, so now I'm ready to build my mod. If you followed my previous tutorial, now it's the same. So I'm going to click on Assets, Build Asset Bundles. Oh, before I proceed, let me explain how to pack multiple buildings in the same mod. So to do that, you will need to create multiple prefabs similar to this. The fastest way to do this is you bring this into the scene, and now this is actually the same prefab, right? But if you right click, you can go in prefab. Where's unpack? Prefab. Okay, unpack. And now this is not the prefab anymore. So this could be like the second building of my mod. So now if I drag and drop this again, boom, now I have a second building, and I can click here, I can change this, let's say purge 2, this would be the second building of my mod, and you would need to go through all of this again. So you can create building packs with this, and really extend the game with one mod. I'm not gonna do this now, because, you know, it's too much work, so I'm gonna delete this, but you have the idea. Okay, so now that all of my buildings or building are ready, I'll just click on Assets, Build Asset Bundles. I'm gonna click on this. I'm gonna wait for a second. This is gonna build my mod. Something that I didn't mention, you see here it says build and it has these different directories. They have to be empty. So if there is something in the Linux directory or OS X or Windows, delete it before launching this command. Now if I go here, you will see there is this crazy files. Those are your packed up mod ready to be uploaded. You made it. So now if you go in scenes, you will see there's another scene called submission. So I'm gonna double click on that. And this scene, if I hit play, it's a very ugly interface to do my first submission. So it's asking me the mod title, so I'm gonna call it the Purge Building. Mod description here, your wealthy. So here. Tags, they're not mandatory, but they're cool. I'm gonna call it new building. Existing mod ID, you can use this to update your mod if you already have created one. This is a new mod, so I'm not gonna put anything, but I'm gonna show you how to use it later to update your mod. Preview image, I need to create a preview image. So I'm gonna use Substance Painter. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this. The preview image needs to be somehow squarish. So here we go. I'm gonna save it, preview image. Now I'll go back to Unity, select from computer, and I can select it. Where is it? Download, here we go. Okay, now I'm ready to submit. I'm gonna click submit. It's uploading my mod. Depending on how big your mod is, this may take some time. Here we go. My mod was submitted to Unity. You can unpause it, so I can click on play here. And I'm done. Congratulations, your mod is on Steam. To check it, you can go into the Steam community. It may take some minutes to show up, but I can show you. So if you go in the SkidCities workshop, here you will see mods and buildings. You may not see it here yet for some reason. I don't know why it doesn't show immediately, but if you go back to the home, here it will say your files or files you've posted. If you click here, this is always updated to the last minute, and you see that I'm seeing this here. So now to use this in game, I just need to click subscribe and then launch the game. By the way, if later you want to update this mod, you just follow the same steps, and you see here in the URL it says ID equals a number. You right click on this, you copy this number, and here in the submission mod you can paste it here. Ctrl V to paste. And now if I were to click submit, I would update the mod since I'm using this ID. This is handy if you want to do multiple iterations of your mod. So let's take a look at the mod, shall we? Okay, so I'm gonna create a new city here. Federal Trade Authority, just a random name. Just want to show you guys the final effect because it's very cool. So now if I go here in public perks, entertainment, here we go. That's my building. So I'm gonna build it somewhere. Boom. $400 like I wanted. Road. I'm gonna place a road here. And this is gonna have the effects that I defined. So like if I right click, you'll see the name I came up with. It produces the desired level for residential reach that I have. And I can also check it out like See, residential reach desirability is up. So yeah, this is gonna produce all the stuff that I wanted. It's there. I could have added a lot of those, but yeah, that's very exciting. Now it's in game and everyone can use it. So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Please, if you have any questions, ask them in our official Discord. The link to join is below. I'm Lapsus, the developer at SkidCities. Thank you so much for listening and keep building.